Hi, welcome back to episode 2 of At the Stove with Audrey Grove. I am Audrey and I'm the Director of Community Services and Social Accountability at Masonicare. And I'm here today coming at you from my kitchen to pass some time together and make something really yummy. So today we're going to be making biscotti, and we'll be making two kinds. The biscotti is an almond-based dough, and on one loaf we're going to add chocolate chips, and on the other loaf we're going to add a cinnamon and sugar dusting. So let's begin. The first thing I want to tell you about the biscotti is it's from a cookbook, and I don't know if you can see, but it's stained and dirty from me making this recipe so many times. To me, the biscotti is like comfort food, and this cookbook is called Just Heavenly Eating, and these are just heavenly. So I wanted to share them with you. Let's start. I have 2 bowls on the counter. One is for my dry ingredients, and the big one is for my wet ingredients that I'll incorporate the dry into, and I wanted to just share with you. This yellow bowl is an old Pyrex bowl, and I bet you have these in your kitchen too, but this bowl came from my grandmother's kitchen, so I always love to use this bowl. Let me go get our ingredients. If you look over here, I've laid out all of our ingredients so I don't have to go hunting around in my kitchen looking for things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do our dry ingredients. So we've got flour, and let's see, we're going to put 2 3/4 cups flour. So let me just grab a knife. I guess I didn't get everything that I needed, right? And some more measuring cups. So if you watched our first episode where I made the minestrone soup, I talked about how cooking doesn't have to be exact, but baking does. So I try to always follow a recipe in baking exact, especially the first time I make it. Then if I think I want to make some modifications, I can go back and do that the next time. But for the most part, when we're measuring ingredients for baking, always exact. So I like to use a knife and level it off. So that's 2 cups. And then, so I got a 1/2 cup. And this is just regular all-purpose flour. Wonderful thing about biscotti is that all these ingredients that we're using today can be found right in your pantry if you want to make it. And I'll make sure that Carrie Hatch, our manager of leisure activities, has the recipe for this too, in case you want to try it yourself. Okay, so that's 2 3/4 cups flour. Next, we're gonna do baking powder. And let's see how much we wanna put in here. Oh, that was my oven dinging that it's ready. So we've got 4 teaspoons of baking powder. So let's add that. 2, 3, and 4. So if you notice, I'm keeping all my ingredients behind me. I like to keep my workspace relatively free. I have a whisk. We're gonna whisk this up, but we're also gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon salt. And this is like general cooking salt, kosher salt. And I'm just gonna whisk this just to give a little air in the flour and to mix up the baking powder and the salt into the flour. Okay, I'm gonna put that aside, and I'm gonna start with my wet ingredients. So the first thing is 3 eggs. So I took these eggs out of my refrigerator about 10-15 minutes ago, just so they can be a little bit at room temperature. By the way, I forgot to tell you that before we even turned on the video camera, I washed my hands, and that's always very important. So I'm just gonna grab some paper towels, and we're gonna put the eggs and the sugar in the bowl. So let me grab the sugar. This takes 1 cup of sugar. 1 cup. and then the eggs. And all we're gonna do is beat these together so it's a nice light mixture. So I don't know if you, when you're cooking or baking, if you break your eggs on the side of the bowl. I used to work a long time ago for a caterer, and one day we weren't busy and the chef said, hey, come on back in the kitchen. I'll teach you anything you want to know. And one of the things he taught me was not to break eggs on the side of a bowl or on a dish, to break them on a counter, so that this way less chances of eggshells coming in. So we're just gonna whisk that together so the eggs the coloring gets a little lighter and it's fully incorporated into the sugar. And next we're gonna take our oil and flavorings. So I have in here 6 tablespoons of regular canola oil. So I'm gonna add that in. The next thing is almond extract, because these are almond biscotti. So this is just 1/4 teaspoon, not a lot. We don't want that paper in there. Okay. We're gonna put in some lemon juice. So I happen to have had this piece of lemon cut up. So I'm going to use my juice extractor. All I need is 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. So I'm gonna put it right into this little bowl. Good. Let's see if this is 1 teaspoon. Here's our teaspoon. Oh, it is. I like to put, I'm gonna put just a tiny bit extra. Love the lemon flavoring, it really brightens things up. Okay, so now we're just gonna mix this up, and I'm gonna use my whisk still. And it's a beautiful yellow orangey color. Let that come off the whisk. And then we're gonna add the dry ingredients into the wet. So for that, I'll put my whisk away and I'll take out a spoon. Let's see, I like this one. I like this because it's also can get the stuff on the side of the bowl. So I'll start with a cup, and I'm just gonna slowly incorporate. And you know, when you're mixing flour, you can't go too fast because you get the flour up in your face or all over your counter. And even when you go slow, that could still happen. But I know you can't smell it, but already this smells delicious between the almond extract and the lemon juice. It's so bright and fresh. So we'll just keep continuing to put our flour into our wet ingredients. Trying not to overmix, so I'm mixing really kind of slow. Might as well put all of it in. And we'll mix it up. So basically today we're going to be making 2 loaves of biscotti. One is going to be the chocolate chip, and the other is going to have a dusting of cinnamon sugar, which pairs nicely with the almond and lemon too. So you can see the dough is starting to form. And I'm just, again, mixing it slowly. I don't want the dough to get too tough. Good. Now this is looking great. here it is. We'll just scrape some of the flour mixture off the sides so we get all of the salt, flour, and baking powder. And I'm gonna use my hands a little bit just to test the dough and see, oh, it's perfect, perfect, perfect. So we'll take this off of here. Now remember, my hands have been washed. Okay. So now we are going to put a little flour on the counter. You could use a board if you want, but I have this granite counter which works really nicely with rolling out dough. So I'm gonna go back and get a little bit of flour. Take a small little measuring cup and put it on here. Before we take the dough out, I'm gonna lightly grease my pan, my baking pan. Now, if you look over at this baking pan, first look, it looks like it's seen better days. But this is my Biscotti baking pan. I use only this for the Biscotti because you have to slice it with a knife, and I don't know if you can see all the cut marks in here, so I don't want to ruin any other pan. So just a light dusting. We'll be right back. So we're back, and we're gonna roll out our dough and make 2 nice logs. So I'm gonna pick up this beautiful dough, and there's some left in the bottom with some flour, so I wanna get that. I'm gonna put a little bit of flour on my hands so the dough doesn't stick to me. So, cameraman, I don't know if you can get that. Great. I'm gonna cut this dough in half. And work with 1/2 at a time. And I'm just gonna roll this into like a long log. It's gonna try to crumble up a little bit, so I'm shaping and rolling at the same time. Now, the tricky part is once I've got this nice shaped log, is getting it onto the cookie sheet. So I'm going to pick it up and put it on here, and then I'm going to continue to shape it, stretch it out a little bit. I have a mixture of cinnamon and sugar, and I'm going to dust this one with the cinnamon and sugar. Again, these are all ingredients that I have in my pantry that you probably have in yours. I didn't have to run out to the store to get anything. And then I'm just gonna press it in. Good. Now I'm gonna take some chocolate chips with this dough. Put a few in here. I'm gonna roll it a little. I know my family loves it when I make a chocolate chip biscotti more than just the plain one, but my favorite is the plain one with the cinnamon sugar. Now I'm gonna take some more flour here and work on this. So this one, I'm just gonna kind of mold with my hands. And wish me luck, here we go. We're gonna bring this over here. Okay, so there's our 2 loaves of biscotti, chocolate chip and cinnamon sugar. We're gonna put them in the oven. Hi, we're back. And the biscotti are out of the oven. They look absolutely beautiful. So I just started slicing on a diagonal the biscotti. Remember I told you how it kind of ruins your pan because the knife marks, which is why I use the same cookie sheet each time. I leave the ends off because we love the ends. And now I'll do the chocolate chip one. Let's move this over a little, give us some room. These are already crispy. They smell so good. You have to really press a little bit. So after we slice them, we're gonna take them and bake them again. And a little fun facts for you about biscotti. Biscotti originated in the Tuscan city of Prato, and the English translation is twice cooked. So this was the first time. Now I'm gonna turn it on its side, and we're gonna cook it again for about 5 or 6 minutes. And that's really gonna crisp them up. Biscotti in Italy has traditionally been served as an after-dinner dessert, and a lot of people like to dunk their biscotti into like tea or coffee or cappuccino. All right, so we're gonna put this back in the oven, and we'll come back in a minute and see the finished product. So we're back, ready to take out the finished product from the oven. Let's take a look and see what we got. Oh, it smells so good. So here they are. Here's our biscotti. Turn that oven off. I'm gonna taste the cinnamon one. And like I said, made myself a cup of tea. People like to dunk them. I'm not really a dunker. I just like to drink the tea and then have the biscotti. So bon appetit. Thanks so much for joining me. Loved having you in my kitchen, and hope to see you next time with At the Stove with Audrey Grove.